All right, and welcome everybody to the Collectorcast. Hi, Bill.
Hello.
How are you today?
Well, we talked off air. I'm a little bit tired, but I'm willing to tough it out for the greater good.
You're going to take one for the team.
Yeah, the greater good.
Just so you can pacify our listeners, is that it? They're salivating for more Bill.
They have to be, right?
Yeah, I think
I don't know if they are. No one's ever, like, when we've gone a long time between shows, no one's ever sent me a message that says, hey, I've kind of been salivating for you guys.
Well, on our Twitter, I've gotten 2 messages on Twitter about sending a free game to somebody, and both have been for you. So,
well, hockey games are cheap. People are looking to unload them,
and people just don't want them. Is that it?
No, I mean there was one today from a gentleman on Twitter who had a copy of a nearly complete copy of the Street Fighter collection for PlayStation, and I'm trying to work out the details on that. So that would be fantastic. I really do like the artwork on that and the games as well. So yeah, we're lucky that we have some peeps who appreciate the show.
Yeah, we got some wonderful listeners, and thanks everybody. I'm going to I think I want to change things a little bit. Bill, are you okay with that?
Yeah. Hey, I'm by the seat of my pants over here.
I think I'm going to tell people collectorcast.com. Go there, show info. We'll give you the whole rigmarole at the end. But let's cut to the chase, shall we?
Whoa, I think people are going to be surprised by the 10-minute less shorter show this time around.
Well, I figure if they don't know who we are by now, but hey, you're Bill, I'm Duke, we're going to do the show, right?
There you go. Welcome to the party.
Let's start with some questions. You got questions? I'm
down.
Are you excited?
Yeah. I really do like the question segment. I don't know how much feedback you get about it, but I really hope people like it because I would love to just do nothing but questions for one show.
Maybe we'll do that. Maybe we have to do like a special, just a question special.
Yeah, we need to collect questions for like a few weeks and then just, get 20 of them and bam.
Yeah, something like that. Well, let's start with Facebook, shall we?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, this is, I think we're from last time too, question from Aaron D. Sanislow, who I found out that's Retro Rage. Did you know that? I did not know that.
Yeah, no, Retro's a good dude.
Yeah.
It's weird because like until you really start like, conversing with people, who you've met as collectors and on forums by their real names for a while, I always refer to people as their tag.
Yeah.
A quick side story. It wouldn't be us without a tangent. I was talking about you and Krabby to my sister. I forget why, but, it just came up in conversation and I said to her, I was like, yeah, so I was talking to Duke and Krabby the other day and she said, hold on a minute. She said, you know people named Duke and Krabby? And I said, yeah.
Well, yeah, why not, right?
Yeah, who doesn't know a Duke and a Krabby? So.
That's right, yeah, definitely.
So yeah, Retro Rage.
Yeah, who he sent me, it was nice. He sent me a PM last time because I guessed about pronouncing his name and he said, thank you for pronouncing it correctly, so.
How do people normally pronounce it, like Sanslow?
I don't know. Yeah. It looks like Sanslow.
It looks like it just looks like you sounded it out.
Yeah, there you go. But Mr. Sanslow wants to know, what was your most disappointing gaming experience, Bill?
No, I gotta say, I feel like I've had this question, or we may have had a question similar to this before, because the first thing that comes to my mind when I hear this question is The Last Remnant. And I know that I've talked about The Last Remnant before.
You have.
But it may have just come up in conversation. It might not have been like a question like this. And I'm sorry to have a repeat answer, but The Last Remnant, I was really, like, the way I am when I get excited about a game, I'm not the type that goes and tries to find trailers or tries to find interviews or tries to, see, video before it comes out. I really I kind of have an idea of the types of games I like and the developers I like and the publishers I like. And I kind of have a good idea without having to be fed all that stuff, what I think I'm going to enjoy and not enjoy. And sometimes that backfires. So I was pretty into Square at the time. I liked RPGs. I liked the hidden gems. And I was really, really, really excited for The Last Remnant. Came out on Xbox 360, eventually on the PC. But yeah, I pre-ordered that gem. I played it, the day it came out. And I remember kind of looking around an hour in thinking this can't be it. It's what's going, and then because you know how sometimes they embargo review scores until
for good
the
reason.
day that the game comes out or later. And sometimes the embargo is based on the review score. So it's like, okay, if your score is less than an 8, it can't come out until 2 days after the game does. If your score is 8.5 or higher, you can release it, the day the game comes out. So, and they're not allowed to tell you that that's part of the embargo. That's another part of the embargo. But, you can tell it happens because you're like, wow, it's weird. None of the bad reviews came out until 3 days after the game did.
Shocking.
So, but yeah, it's, I remember thinking like, wow, I don't like this game. Maybe there's something wrong with me. And then I saw like the first couple of reviews, like I think the IGN review was like a 6 or something like that. And I was like, oh, it's not just me.
You should stop now.
Yeah, it's a bad game. So yeah, I mean, there's others you could go on, but, that's probably the one. I was looking forward to it a lot. I wanted to, discover this cool new game, like new IP. I was really excited about it, and no good ski.
Yeah.
What are you thinking for disappointing gaming experience?
This, I don't know why this one popped into my head, but I'm going to go with it. Two Worlds.
Okay.
Two Worlds was, oh man.
I remember Two Worlds, a 360 game, right?
Yeah. And it was, it's like, oh, it's going to be like an open world kind of, Elder Scrolls-ish RPG sort of game. And, go and do whatever, you want. And, oh my God. Did you ever play Two Worlds?
I get it confused with Two Human just because it's got two in the name. But
right.
No, I've never played Two Worlds.
No, it's terrible. I mean, like, we're probably talking like maybe PS2 if you're lucky graphics. The people look like someone beat them to death with the ugly stick.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and the gameplay was terrible. I played the game for maybe like 10 minutes and I glitched and it lost my save. And I went, that's enough. It was, I tried a couple times and it was just terrible. And it was weird because I had a friend that really liked it.
Yeah, and you know what? And that happens. That's probably actually a really good question. Question is game that you like that everybody else hates. Now that's different than a guilty pleasure to me, because a guilty pleasure means like you actually feel guilty about playing or liking the game. But I don't feel guilty about games that I love, so I don't really have any guilty pleasures. But yeah, it's I think that one came out on PC eventually as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Probably. Avoid it. That would be my suggestion.
Two Worlds, no good, says Duke.
Yeah, no, I would avoid it. Now, Mr. Rich Franklin, the third, I believe, actually.
Yes, Esquire. And Ted Theodore Logan.
That's right, Wild Stallions. Rich has a long question here, so let me get this one out. If you were on a desert, I love these. Why is it always a deserted island?
Because if there was anything else to do, you probably would be, doing it.
Okay, all right. So if you were on a deserted island, it can only take one system and one genre. Now that's the big thing.
Okay,
genre of games with you. So whatever that might be.
Right.
Which system and which genre would you choose? And he says, heck yeah, this deserted island has electricity, and you don't even have to pay the power bill. I would call somebody probably if I had power.
That would keep me up at night. Why is the electricity running, and how do I never get a bill?
Yeah, I would choose a PC, I think, because then I could let someone know I'm on a deserted island.
Yeah, I was actually thinking that when he said system, I was like, is he including PC? Because the genre that I would take, I would kind of prefer to play it on PC, but I'll let you start. We'll just let people think about that for a second.
Is there any really reason to ask me this question?
Let me guess.
Yes.
Okay, so Duke. If Duke could take one system, and don't tell me if I'm right or wrong.
Okay.
I'm going to say the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, which is the only way to say the name of that system, even if it's abbreviated.
Or you could say SNES, sure.
You could say that, but
or Super NES.
You're on thin ice, though. Just calm down. I got yelled at on RF Gen for this. But yeah, I'm guessing that, and I'm gonna guess, Schmips.
No.
Ooh, where are you at? Did I get the system right?
No.
Ooh, what are you taking?
I would have to take the original Nintendo Entertainment System.
But there's no compile shooters on that system.
There are compile shooters.
Well, not the ones that you really like, though.
There's Xanac and Gunnac.
Yeah, there is that one game.
But I wouldn't take shooters. I would probably take just action games because that would be like almost all the NES library.
You would take the Ninja Gaiden trilogy?
Yeah, I would take, just action titles on the NES because like all the Mega Mans, all the Castlevanias, all the Ninja Gaidens, and even all the weird games. Most of them are all action. So
no, wait. So you're saying Mega? So Mega Man action?
That's action, yeah, right? That's an action game.
You don't think Castlevania would be an adventure game?
No, I would consider that an action game, right?
Yeah.
I would like Zelda's like an adventure game, right?
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. Like the genres get so blurred because they borrow so much from each other. But if you took enough liberties, I guess it depends on who's choosing. But yeah, if you took the NES with action games, I could see you having a pretty good time for a while.
Yeah, I think it would probably keep me busy on my poor deserted island while I was trying to figure out how to make a radio out of coconuts or something. But how about you?
With your little buddy? It depends on what he, on if his system, because if he says system, if he's not counting PC, because if I can only have one thing, and only one genre game, this is a really tough one because like.
Okay, let me guess.
Okay.
PC. And 4X games.
And let me tell you why that's where I'm leaning, is because I can play them. Like, if I sit down with most games, there's only been a couple times in my life where I sat down with a specific genre of game, like, was so in love with everything that was going on that, like, you look at the clock and you're like, oh my God, it's 4 a.m. I need to go to bed right now.
Right.
And that happens to me with 4X games all the time. I went to make I made a Civilization Beyond Earth video and I posted it on YouTube and I put it on an RF Gen blog. And a couple of people, I think a couple of people have watched it. My views are up to like 8, so I'm pretty sure I'm big time now. But yeah, I had an RF Gen member shoot me an email or a message and say, hey, I know time is really, you say your time is your biggest challenge right now, but have you thought about making more? It was Bamba Tamba or Boomba Toomba. I never know how to say that. But he said, like, have you thought about doing videos for other Civ games? So I said, you know what? I love playing Civ 5 and I love teaching games so much. Let me make a Civ 5 like how-to video. And I meant to sit down for 35, 45 minutes. And, I sat down and I did like the first, 50 turns of Civ. And I was explaining like everything I was doing. And I was done. I hit stop. I hit okay. And then let me, go and check this video out, make sure everything looks good. And it was an hour and 54 minutes. And I really thought I'd only been playing for like a half hour. So as much as I love so many different genres, if I have one thing that I can just sit down and play as long as I want forever, it probably is 4X games on the PC.
I'll take it, and Rich will have to take it because he's not here to argue with us.
He has to, yeah. There's no rejection button.
No takesies, backsies.
Nope.
And from Twitter, our good buddy Sega Tomcast is back. He asks, describe the systems and story to your own original text adventure game. Bonus points if it's sci-fi or sci-fi or say whatever it is.
I'm pretty sure he meant sci-fi. Who are you talking to? Of course it's sci-fi. Look at me.
Well, the channel is sci-fi, right?
Yeah, they changed the spelling, right?
You can't do that.
Yeah, didn't they? What they changed it to? SYFY?
Something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's no good. But yeah, I mean, have you given any thoughts to your original text adventure game?
I don't know. I'm not an original person, so it'd have to be like some kind of variant of like Zork, because those are probably the text adventure games that I played the most of. Mm-hmm. But I guess if I had to give like a background story to my text adventure, I mean, I would probably go with sci-fi because it's easiest, right, to do like sci-fi. So maybe
it has the fewest barriers, and you can do very creative things and make them, kind of make sense.
Yeah, and you can make all kinds of stuff up because it's the future, right?
Right.
So you don't have to like obey physics or anything, quite honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Or either that or you have to do magic, but I'm not going to do magic. So let's say that you're on a barren space station all alone. You've waken up from your cryogenic sleep.
Okay.
All the alarms are going off. You look around, and the other tubes are empty where your co-inhabitants of the space station were. They're gone. There's nobody there. And you go to the panel, and all these warnings are going off, and that's where you get started, right? So you have to try to see what's happened to your crew. Why is the space station in trouble? That's probably like the most boring, generic sci-fi intro ever.
I was trying to think. At first, I was trying to think, what game is this already? And then I started thinking,
all of them.
What game isn't this?
Yeah, all of them. I don't. What would the systems be like? It would be like Zork, right? You'd have to say go east. Although, how would that make sense in space, right?
Yeah, you'd have to give it multiple. You'd have to give it like south by southeast.
Something. Well, it wouldn't even make sense, right? Because there's no north or south. I don't know. Left, right, up, down. That doesn't even make sense.
My guess is if it's a text adventure, then it wouldn't be 3-dimensional. So you have a 2-dimensional plane of space.
Right. That's probably terrible.
We can't afford graphics. It's not 3D.
Yeah. No. No. Get Lamp. That should be your first.
What would the game be called?
Oh God, I don't know. Space Death.
Space Death. That's pretty good. Space Marine was taken.
I guess. I'm so creative. How about you, Bill?
I've never. I didn't play a ton of text adventure games. Probably my most involved experience with text adventure games was like that scene in Big where Tom Hanks is playing the text adventure game.
Right.
And I remember seeing that and thinking like, oh, it'd be so cool because I saw it so much later, like after the movie came out. And I remember thinking, oh, it would be so cool if they actually made video games that were like that. Not realizing like, oh, they did. And then
right.
Better games came out. But yeah, if I had a text adventure game, what I thought was really intriguing, even though it wasn't a text adventure, it was, graphics, it was on the NES. I don't know if the game's great or not, because I never played more than a couple hours of it, but I always thought Deja Vu was so intriguing.
Yeah.
Just the premise and, first of all, the box art, private eye, like all that kind of stuff. But the game starts out like you're in a room and okay, what do I do? So if just going off that premise, and also one of my favorite, sci-fi, movies of all time, the Canadian masterpiece Cube.
Yeah, Cube is great.
It's the same thing. All these strangers wake up in this environment. No idea how they got there. No idea how they're all related to each other, but they have to figure it out. Very, 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 very cool. And it's the best movie that bad acting cannot hold back. Like the story's too good for the acting to bring it down. But that's what
the low budget. Yes.
Oh, absolutely. That's what my text adventure would be. It would be wake up in an area and the story is kind of like explained as you find out who you are. Again, very generic. Like hero wakes up with amnesia. Has to figure stuff out. But for text or even graphic adventure games, a lot of good ones start with okay, hero wakes up and has to figure out a Full Throttle. I don't know if you played it, but
no.
Part of my favorite Tim Schafer adventure game. You're shown what happens right before the game starts, but then spoiler alert, you're knocked out and you're dumped in a dumpster, and you have to get out of the dumpster and figure out okay, what the hell just happened to me? So yeah, it would probably be something along the lines of that. Of course, it would be sci-fi, and I think I would like it if it was surprise sci-fi, kind of like spoiler alert, Assassin's Creed. So if you didn't know it was sci-fi until you open a door and it's oh, space, this is a sci-fi story. So, yep, that's what I'm thinking.
Let me pitch you this idea. How about a text adventure about a guy? And now get this, he's a dad. He's got to get up and he goes to work every day. And you have to navigate your job.
Ooh.
You have to come home and pay bills.
Okay.
Keep a wife happy. And occasionally podcast.
This sounds like a game that I would play. But,
it's got legs, right?
But it wouldn't sell very well.
So it wouldn't sell well at all.
The numbers wouldn't be great.
No, probably not. All right. Up next, we've got at JRock Game Rocker. So that's actually JRock the Game Rocker. And if you see his picture, man, he's got some awesome game rocking hair. So JRock the Game Rocker, he asks, this one got me. Have you ever traded a game you didn't want to trade because the deal was so good?
Have you ever traded a game? So, like, I own a game.
Yes.
And I don't want to trade it in.
Right.
But I do because they were giving way too much money for it.
Or a person or anything. Yeah. Yeah. Like somebody.
Oh, right. So not necessarily the store, but like, oh, I gotcha. Yes. Absolutely. And you're going to get mad at me when you find out what game it is.
Why would I get mad at you?
Because it's DuckTales 2.
Why would I be mad at you because of that?
Because I got rid of it.
Well, I know, but I know the torture that ensues. I know the rest of the story.
Yeah.
You got your comeuppance, but
I did. I got the thing and that's I guess that's his question. Have you ever traded a game you didn't want to because, like the deal was really good? I didn't trade this directly to a person for a thing. But basically I had picked up a copy of DuckTales 2 with the manual for a really, really good price. And then I got a lead on a fantastic, Play Choice 10, dual screen Play Choice 10. That I needed to come up with some money quickly. The guy wasn't going to wait. He had other people interested. And I was like, I just didn't have like the cash like that minute. So I was like, okay, I need to sell this thing immediately. So I threw it out. So it wasn't a direct trade, but like I sold this thing that I didn't want to sell. Because I needed, quick cash for another thing. So I don't know if that quite matches the way he's asking. I will tell you a time that I didn't do that. I had a Mega Man, my favorite, I know everyone thinks I'm crazy about this. My favorite Mega Man is 4, not because I think it's the best, just because I played it the most when I was a kid. I still don't have a copy of Mega Man 4, complete manual, box, anything. I have a friend, Jay, who's a huge Mega Man 3 fan. It's his favorite game. And I have a Mega Man 3 complete in the box. And he came over and he was like, I will trade you a complete Mega Man 4 for a complete Mega Man 3.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, I really, 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 really did want the copy of Mega Man 4, but I didn't want to give up my copy of Mega Man 3.
Right, yeah.
So I didn't do it.
Right.
And it's years later. I'm glad I didn't do it, but I still really wish that I had a copy of Mega Man 4.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I get that. For me, I did a trade. It's been a few years back, but there was a collector that was from, I don't know, I think he's from maybe the Netherlands or somewhere over there.
It's a great area.
Yeah, I would think so. I've never been, but it sounds great.
And we have some listeners. We have some RFGen members from there.
Yeah. So he was looking for some pretty tough to find Super Nintendo titles that I had.
Under Desert Island.
Yeah, sure, right? So, and there's some other games as well. So, there was I had a complete, Lufia. I had, I think it was Lunar on the PS1, that nice big collector thing. And I think there was
the box, yeah.
Yeah, I think I had the Ark the Lad.
Cloth map or whatever.
Yeah, the Ark the Lad collection. And there was a few other ones that I really wouldn't have traded it normally, but he was offering up a lot of hard to find PAL NES games, and quite a few of them were boxed. And it was kind of one of those trades where I just couldn't say no. It was just because honestly, it just wasn't going to happen again, right? I mean, those sort of things just don't come up very often. I'm like, okay, I can get these Super Nintendo games and PlayStation games again if I look around. They're still here. I'm not going to find these, PAL NES games boxed and everything
totally.
here. It's just not going to happen, right? So I did it. I missed some of those. Yeah, because some of those, that Lufia, it was mine, from eons ago. And there was I had a box copy of Final Fantasy II that went in that trade and had the map and everything. And again, it was mine. I didn't really want to get rid of it, but I knew, I could replace it. So, yeah, that's it. So,
even though I haven't, I would, I'm at the point right now where I'm looking at some of my collection and I'm like, okay, things that, I'm not that I'm hurting for cash or anything, but I'm looking at stuff and I'm like, you know what? If something came up and somebody gave me a good deal for X game or Y game, I'd do it. If I thought I could get it back, or if, just, cause it's not just all about collecting and letting it sit there. It's also about trading and, kind of swapping. Okay, well, I'll take a risk. It's almost like gambling. Like I'll take a risk that I'll see this again, and then maybe I will, maybe I won't. So yeah, I think it actually like adds to the fun a little bit, like trying to like grab things again. Once you kind of swap them out. So
yeah, and I've grabbed a couple of those back again, so they show up. But thanks, J-Rock. Yeah, appreciate that. Appreciate the question. Last one we've got coming up is at Rare Video Games, who is that's Wayne. You remember Wayne from we met him at Too Many Games, right? Wayne Pei.
Wayne Pei.
That's right.
Yeah, it's what is it? One by one designs.
Yes, yep. He does the Lego stuff.
Real cool guy. We had a burger with him at whatever that place was called.
Yeah, I don't remember. It was
a really good burger, but also Wayne Pei was there and Isret and a few others. So it was a fun day.
Yeah, Wayne's a great guy.
Wrestling Man, Neo Magic Warrior. I feel bad because I won't be able to remember everyone's name who was there, but. Too Many Games a couple years ago was a lot of fun with the RF Gen guys.
Yeah, I'm hoping we can do it again.
Huh.
But Wayne asks, a topic me and my buddy talk about is what new games have potential to become rare. Boy, this is a tough one.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. He asks, got any sleepers? And he maybe suggests maybe about Deadfall Adventures on the 360.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be straight out honest. I mean, I don't know about Deadfall Adventures. I mean, yeah, it's not really known. It's not a big 360 title. It got crap reviews. But it's still available now. It's not terribly expensive. It's possible,
Right.
And it got a PC release, but I'm sure I'm guess talking about the 360 game.
Sure.
I'll be honest, I've never seen a copy.
Not me either.
And I don't know if there's a backstory. Maybe it got pulled or maybe it was some other thing. But I did a quick search when he mentioned it, and at least according to GameStop, all the GameStops around me should have a copy. Who knows?
Right.
But their inventory systems, whatever it is. So if there's some backstory there, maybe I'm not familiar with it, but I don't know enough about that one to make any suggestions. As far as what I would say as rarity goes, the problem I think we're going to run into, at least for future collectors that are looking to get things now, is all these crazy limited collector editions are going to kill you. Even now. I mean,
there's way more things that come out at over $100, $150, $200 at retail that are actually limited, and not just like, remember like Crysis 2 for 360, like every copy says limited edition on it.
Yeah.
So it's I'm totally with you. Like the collector editions are going to be huge. And a lot of them are cool, but that's going to destroy. And there's another distinction I'd like him to make is the Shadow question is rarity versus value, or like the dollar value. So like if you're talking about, okay, well, does this game have the potential to become rare? Oh, well, sure. I mean, you don't see Deadfall Adventures now, but that doesn't mean that it has value. You know what I mean? So like,
sure.
Like as far as like, something that's rare and sells for big dollars, something like Mass Effect 1 Collector's Edition.
Yeah, Mass Effect 1.
Because it was actually limited, and, there weren't, a million of them out there, and it, still goes for $300 to $500. So if he's talking rare, absolutely. There's a hint. I mean, it's pretty much anything that, didn't have great reviews, didn't really get like a widespread release. But if he's talking about this stuff, okay, like what's going to be like the surprise at Dino Peak of the current generation? I don't have a ton of great guesses besides all those like collector editions.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to throw some things out there, I mean, it's going to be probably the obvious ones. It's going to be these Nintendo collector's editions that have been come out recently that they offer, maybe like 100 of them in New York, and nobody gets them. So the Hyrule Warriors, the Mario Kart, the Blue Shell. I mean, yeah, those are, of course, going to be expensive. And if
let me ask this. What about, okay, let me put this one out here.
Yeah.
You know what I think has the potential?
Sure. What?
Is the Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword bundle with the gold Wiimote?
Unopened, maybe? Sealed?
Yes.
Yeah.
Unopened.
Okay. Yeah, it's going to be tougher.
I actually, believe it or not, that, because remember that game came out like right around Black Friday?
Yeah.
And that's where I bought my copy because they were selling it for $50. Like that bundle is $50, I think, at Walmart. And and I didn't buy it to, as a collector. I just bought it because I like Zelda games, and I didn't have a Wii Motion Plus. So that was the bundle I bought. I played my game with that. I still have the controller. And you know what might be a little asterisk to add on to that is the gold nunchuck that's was exclusive to Club Nintendo.
Yeah, some of the Club Nintendo things are going to be tougher. I mean, some of them are not too bad, like the Game & Watch collections for DS. Right. I mean, there's still enough of those copies that are out there. But again, I'd go back to some of these weird collector's editions. And something else that could be, you have to think about Diamond Trust of London on DS, which was a very late release and was only, I guess technically you can still buy it, but it was basically just a guy put that whole thing together, and I'm going to guess it got a minimum print run from Nintendo because I think it was like a Kickstarter or something similar to that. So you're going to guess probably a run of maybe 10,000. And these days, unless you're getting into crazy weird collector's editions, that's going to be fairly rare. I mean, most things are going to have to get a minimum print run of a pretty decent size.
Right, or they're not going to take a chance.
Yeah, it's probably not going to happen. So there's always going to be the weird things. I'm sure there's probably a few out there. What I would actually do is I would throw this back out to the listener. So, if you've got any of these thoughts or ideas, I mean, it's great to speculate about these things, but share them with us and maybe include on the tweet at Rare Video Games and include Wayne on that one.
Yeah, I think one of the things that works against that is people who anything that appears like it might be rare, people snag it up. They say they're like, oh, like I don't think this is going to be a huge thing. I'm going to grab this like just in case. And it's like, okay, well, like 40,000 people thought that, and like everybody has one.
Well, or like if you think about some of these, again, like these weird little Nintendo of America collector's edition things that came out, and there were hardly any. They already flipped on to eBay quick and have gone up. And I'll be real honest, if you want one of those things long term, yeah, it's going to hurt, but buy it now because it's only going to get more ridiculous if you actually want that at some point in time. That's not for me. I'm not going to go. I'm not going to collect for these newer systems thoroughly. So, but.
Same thing. Like, I'm not gonna, the newer systems, like, they're just not that interesting to me. After, I still play games after Dreamcast, but I don't hold on to things after Dreamcast unless they're like some of my favorite things, just because, I don't know, it just does, like, there's nothing interesting about it to me. I look at it and I'm like, it just feels like a new thing. It doesn't feel like cool like the old stuff does.
Yeah, but, to the speculators out there, I think there's plenty of fodder to talk about with those. So, so include at Rare Video Games on that tweet. That'd be good. So thanks everybody again for the questions. We appreciate it. Make sure you send some more our way. Hey everybody, it's Duke here to tell you again about our sponsor, Off the Charts Video Games. Be sure to listen all the way through the spot because there's a special offer at the end for Collectorcast listeners. We all know that shopping online for video games can be a hassle. If you shop on eBay, you have to pay shipping to each individual seller. On Amazon, you never see what you're really going to get. And as for the leading online classic game retailers, well, we all know that their prices aren't the best. After years of collecting, trading, and selling on multiple marketplaces, the guys at Off the Charts Video Games have built a site with the needs of collectors in mind. OTCVideogames.com gives the experience of a brick-and-mortar store while you relax at home. With pictures and individual descriptions for every item, you will know exactly what you're going to get. Every game is tested in-house on their multi-system testing station, so your order will come back with their quality guarantee and great customer service. Off the Charts now sells separate boxes and manuals so you can buy complete and box games all at once or complete your loose games. Browse their games, boxes, and manuals separately or all together. Boxes and manuals are posted now for Nintendo 64 and are coming soon for other systems. Everyone knows the most annoying part of buying online is shipping. Well, at Off the Charts, orders over $50 get free shipping in the US. Not only that, but they always ship orders out the next business day, Monday through Friday, and every order gets tracking. Choose your favorite provider, whether it's UPS, FedEx, or the US Postal Service. Check them out for yourself at www.otcvideogames.com or see their inventory updates and meet their staff on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube with the handle OTC Video Games. Again, that's www.otcvideogames.com and OTC Video Games on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. As a limited time special offer for Collectorcast listeners, enter coupon code Collectorcast at checkout to receive a 5% discount on your order. Again, that's coupon code Collectorcast, all together, one word, no spaces. All right, well, this episode, again, Krabby's, he has been a little delayed, so we've got...
I thought you were going to say baby.
No.
He's been a little baby lately.
No, he's been really busy, but I think we've got some dates lined up here pretty soon, so we'll intend to get him in on the next episode. But while he's gone, we wanted to talk a little bit about a topic maybe that's not directly, collecting related, but it's more about games, and that's the topic of difficulty in games, because this is something that I've been thinking about lately, and I think there's a lot to kind of get into and talk about here. So, I guess right up front, when I say difficulty, Bill, what in gaming, what does that bring to mind for you?
The first thing I think of when I think of difficulty is frustration.
Okay.
Even though difficulty doesn't necessarily mean higher difficulty, but but normally, when I start a game and it's like, okay, like you hit start, here's the game. Whenever a game comes up and you hit start and it says, okay, what do you want to do? Easy, normal, or hard? It's always, that's the moment where I think, okay, first of all, how good am I at this genre?
Okay.
Like, number two, like, have I ever played anything like, in this series before? Because if I'm experienced with it, I'd rather play higher difficulty. Or if it's just, okay, like, am I a baby if I choose easy? Just because, like, there's certain genres that I play that I'm like, okay, I don't want to have to, like, be the best player at this. I really want to casually play through this game, see the story, and see the ending, and die maybe once or twice.
Yeah.
So, when I think difficulty, I think of frustration, because really all I'm doing when I choose difficulty, if I haven't given the option, is to choose the least frustrating option.
Okay. And I guess when I think of the word difficulty, I think of challenge would be like the first word that comes to mind is, and I guess along that is it a worthwhile challenge?
Right.
And is it a fair challenge?
Right.
So I think we're going to get into some of that stuff, but let's kind of go back for a minute. I want to kind of start at the beginning in terms of gaming and challenges, because we have to kind of recognize that the genesis of all of this stuff is arcade machines that were designed to take your money, right?
Sure. Or, trade stimulators, or, the arcade machines that, you put a quarter in, you get X number of lives or X amount of time. Now, tying the amount of time you get to play to the quarter, I thought like it always felt cheap, because you could quantify the amount of, time you could be playing with money. When you put it in the player's hands, you said, okay, you can play until you die. It became about improving your skill, making yourself better at the game to maximize, your, like, how far you made that quarter last.
Sure.
So, but yeah, it's, being born in, 81, I spent some time in arcades, but I wasn't there, like, in, like, the, like the Pac-Man, Q*bert, like the early days where Donkey Kong days where, like, every machine was like, okay, you need to be really good at this game to last more than a couple of minutes.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what most games were designed to do, is to give you a couple minutes of entertainment and then hook you and bring you back in. Because if somebody plays on a machine for an hour with one quarter, that's not profitable for the owner, right?
Sure. And you're stopping other people who are standing there waiting to put their quarters in from playing. So they didn't just want your quarters. But if you weren't willing to continue playing, the other people standing right there, they wanted those quarters.
Absolutely. And even early games, there was no continue option, right? You died, and it was time to start over again.
Right.
And then later on, they figured, we could just keep people pumping money into these things if we let them continue.
Right, because who wants to start over?
Right, you want a sense of accomplishment, which I think we're definitely going to get into a little bit later. But that's the hook, right? There's the difficulty, but there's, again, there's a fine grade to that, right? Because if you push it too far, you drive people away and they just won't want to play the game at all. But there's like a magic level at which it's enough of a challenge, but not too easy either, right?
Right, where you feel like you're not being like beaten down by AI or by some invisible thing that's like, okay, well, we just have to kill him because he can't last this long. You feel like, okay, the game's challenging, but I know that if I work at this, I can do it. And the other thing that is like, if your game's too difficult, it doesn't like, there's so much frustration that when you finally do it, it's not like, yay, I have this sense of accomplishment because that was really difficult. It's like, finally, God, that was so stupid. Why did I have to work so long and so hard and spend so many quarters to get here? You know what? Whatever. Forget this.
Right.
So they're really, cause like, I hear it all the time. They're like, oh no, when it's really difficult, I really feel like I've accomplished something when I achieve it. And that's true for, but it's not 100%. It's not like every really difficult experience is really rewarding, because at the end of it, on the ones that really weren't, the gameplay wasn't balanced really well with the difficulty, I feel like you're still angry after you've accomplished whatever you were trying to do.
Yeah, I mean, I remember like some of the classic arcade games I would go to play, like some of them were pretty fair, so I would pump money into them a lot,
Right.
I would play things like Raston or Rygar in the arcade a lot, because it was, if you were skilled, you could do well, and it wasn't terrible. It wasn't ever to the point where like, this is ridiculous.
Right.
And there were some other games where I knew they were going to suck my money in, but I did know if I pumped enough money into it, I could win, right?
Right. That was my House of the Dead strategy.
Yeah, right. I could just throw enough money at the problem.
Exactly. Whether or not, just how much money you have determines whether or not you can complete House of the Dead in the arcade.
Yeah. As opposed to other games at the time, like Dragon's Lair, where I would love to watch people play that, but I had no desire because I couldn't solve the problem that way. You know what I mean? It's just pure memorization.
I wanted to stand there and watch. And it's for me, and it depends, because there's certain games that it is like that like I just want to stand here and watch someone who's really good at this be really good at it, and which kind of leads into Twitch.
Oh yeah.
With there is fun in watching a really skilled player in a lot of these games. And in the arcades, it was the same thing, because you would have a crowd of people watching like the one dude who was, mastering Donkey Kong. I remember watching this dude play Asteroids in the arcade, and there was like a crowd around him, and I went over, and I was, everybody, like, you never use the thrust. Like, you start off just rotating the ship and firing,
right.
and then when you see a player moving around the screen, and then, you only have your one way to thrust, then you turn your ship around, you thrust the other way to, reverse the thrust. The way he was moving around, you're just kind of mesmerized by the skill of certain players. So, and it almost makes you feel like, wow, I should be able to do this. That guy's doing it so easily. And, sometimes that's more motivation for me than just dying over and over again, is watching someone who can do it and thinking, oh, I can do that.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, that same, thing that happened in the arcades with everybody would crowd around, that same thing now is just Twitch. And I like Twitch. There's some games where I don't ever want to play them, but I'll watch someone play them. And that was the same sort of thing, right? You'd have your buddies over to sit on the couch, and sometimes you just let them play and watch. Because it was fun. You could still talk about it, or you could just sit back and watch somebody that was good at it. But yeah, So I was
going to say, let's say you do have friends over.
Yeah.
Do you choose, so let's say, you're a bunch of guys on a couch and you're about to play a game, and everyone's like playing, and like, okay, Jimmy can't beat this guy. Let's let Duke try. Duke can't beat this guy. Let's let Krabby try. At what point does one of you look at the others and say, should we lower the difficulty? Or do you not even say that because you don't want people thinking you're a baby?
I guess it depends if that's an option, right?
Right.
If that's an option. I don't know. People
like Krabby intimidate me with playing everything on pretty much hard all the time.
He's good. He's very
good. And there are games that I absolutely play on all Madden, which is just my way of saying the highest difficulty a game offers. There are certain games that I think do a good enough job with balancing the difficulty that's the most fun for me. Like we played Rainbow Six Vegas 1 and 2 on the highest difficulty, which I think is called realistic, and with no respawns. I think it's absolutely the most fun way to play that game. Like you walk around a corner, you get shot, you're dead. Like it's like, whoa, what just happened? But like it makes you better at the game very quickly. And I think it was Call of Duty 4, the first one where they went like modern with the warfare. There was an achievement in it for like, beat the game on the hardest difficulty. And that was when I first, let me try this game on the hardest difficulty. And I played through the entire game on whatever the highest difficulty was. There was one part that really, really, really got me frustrated and took me like a couple hours to get through. But overall, I was way happier with that game on the highest difficulty than with a lower difficulty. But it's weird because it's not always the case. Like a lot of games feel cheap.
Yeah, so let's get into that. I mean, when we talk about difficulty in games, there's really two sides to the coin, right? There's really tuned difficulty, and then there's just crap game design, right?
Yep.
The game is just poorly made.
Yep. Or not even sometimes designed. Sometimes, the game's designed really great, the difficulty's great, and then a suit or a publisher or whoever says, yeah, but it's not long enough. And they're like, yeah, but it's perfect the way it is. And then someone says, make it harder.
Yeah.
Then it'll take longer to finish. And then you have games that are frustratingly difficult.
Yeah.
And I guess that would be contributed to bad game design, or at least a bad game design decision.
Yeah, I mean, because there are some games that are difficult and it is more of mastering a skill, right? You know that once you can learn the skill and perform it, you'll be okay.
Right.
And there are some games that are just cheap. I mean, there's really no other way to say it. Or there are scenarios that are set up where if you don't follow this certain thing they want you to do, you'll die no matter what, right? It doesn't have anything to do with skill. Play along with the story. Do your thing. Yeah.
I ran into I think it was Enslaved.
Mm-hmm.
There was this segment, this set piece segment that like over and over and over again, I was doing everything exactly right. Oh, you know what else this happened to me? It definitely happened to me in Rayman Legends. What was the first one? Was it Legends? And the second one was... No, Origins. Sorry. It was Rayman Origins. There's a segment where, the screen's kind of moving, so like you have to like get through this whole little thing. And I got to it, and I must have died like... You have to do the whole thing. I must have died like at least 8 or 10 times before I was like, okay... I'll look up on the friggin' internet like how to do this, because I kept dying, and I found this thing where it was like, oh yeah, like it's actually a bug in the game. Like there's no way to get by that part.
Oh wow!
Unless you like hug this tree for like, it's actually the problem was I did it too fast. So that when I got up this tree to like jump to the next segment, the screen was squishing me between like the back of the screen and the tree. So they're like, you just have to wait on this tree branch for an extra few seconds. And then, like, you'll be able to move through it.
Yeah.
Because if you do it too fast, so I'm like, like, that kind of thing, like, ends up really bugging me.
Yeah.
And Enslaved, definitely same thing. Like, I died a bunch of times in one spot, and it was like, oh, you're not doing anything wrong, but you have to do it this way.
Yeah, because there are some games that are designed where you'll have normal game parameters that say this is the way the world works and this is what you have to do. And then all of a sudden they'll give you this one weird little scenario where everything is thrown out the window, right? You can't do that anymore. I mean, I remember games where I would play where, normally you might be able to shoot a certain person, right? And normally that's always the case, but there'll be this one character that for whatever reason you can't do that, right? And suddenly you have to go to a certain point to activate something, and
when you're and so when you say that, there's two things that stick out to me, two examples of where I see that happening in games, and one of them is in I guess it's really not the same thing in the the Batman Arkham series, because the enemies don't change halfway through the game. You just have enemies that are impervious to certain kinds of attacks. So I guess that's not really totally the same thing. You're talking about like, okay, these are the rules of the whole game. Oh, it's different now. Now you have to do something else.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Can you think of something where you ran into that?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I wish it's been a little while since we played it last year, but remember BioShock Infinite? I remember there was this one area that normally, again, if you see a guy, you can pick him off and no big deal, right? That's kind of the rules of the game. Shoot the guy. But there was this one guy in some sniping area, so I can't remember what it is. It's been so long, but you couldn't kill him.
Okay. Is it because he was like, he was just part of the scene and he was going to be there no matter what?
Yeah, whatever it was, right? It was there deliberately to put you into a nasty position when you got to a certain spot, and you couldn't avoid it, right? Even though it was totally logic breaking with the game, because you could do it any other time ever. This one time they wanted to put you into a certain spot, and you just had to deal with it.
Okay.
To me, that's frustrating. To me, difficulty is okay if you stay to the same rules.
Right, you want consistency.
Yeah.
Like in Metroid, when you shoot the purple floaty sluggy thing, and he makes that like ripping sound, you know that you can shoot him with missiles. If there was another enemy that you shot that was like had that like that hard metal sound, okay, I know that I'm not hurting him with this weapon.
Right.
So like if they if like they changed a regular game convention for no reason, that's there's been times when like I've been really frustrated on something, and then I look up after a while I look up the remedy, or I ask somebody, and there's two reactions when this happens. It's either like, oh, of course, that makes so much sense, and I still appreciate the way the game is designed and everything's great. Or you find the answer and you're like one of two variants. Like, I was doing that and it wasn't working.
Right.
And the other one is, are you freaking kidding me? That doesn't make any sense at all. So
how was I supposed to know to do this? Right.
Right. Like, oh, well, if you do that, and like the thing is, like, you do get a little bit of that in good games that are trying to make you think outside the box, like Shadow of the Colossus. Because you really do have to really look around and think, okay, what can I possibly do to take this thing down? So like that's the only one of the exceptions that I can think of. But yeah, I mean, like especially like on big boss fights where you try everything and you're like, okay, I'm not scratching this dude. What do I have to do?
Yeah, and so I want to make the distinction pretty early on in this conversation that when we're talking difficulty, we can just throw out crap game design, right? Let's just
because it's
just junk.
Right. So we'll talk about actual game design and what makes for good difficulty versus bad difficulty.
Yeah. So when you deal with a game, like you said, like, oh, you played this Call of Duty 4 on the hardest difficulty and you felt really good about it. Mm-hmm. Why did you feel really good about that versus some other game that was really difficult that you just said, screw it, I'm going to easy?
The main part of it for me, like in a first person shooter, and it depends on which one I'm playing, but like in general, I don't like being able to run out into a wide open area, take a couple of shots from whoever decides to be shooting me. I just look over at that guy. You mow everybody down. You run everybody over. Like it's not fun. Like it's almost like playing something with a Game Genie on.
Right.
You're like, okay, like, yeah, it's really cool that Game Genie can do this and I have infinite lives, but like the game's not fun anymore. Like the game needs rules to be fun. Mm-hmm. So you pop the difficulty up and you walk out from behind a rock. Someone snipes you in the arm. You're down to 30% life and you pop back behind it. You're like, whoa, this is serious.
Yeah, I can't play.
And then you start to appreciate the nuance. Like if you didn't ever do that, you would have no idea about the nuance of the control. Like, okay, like I want to crouch and I want to peer out around side this thing and I want to zoom in and I want to see if I can shoot this guy in the shoulder to disable him and then get his little guy. Like, so you start thinking about how to play the game and how the game wants you to play it versus how you want to play the game. And it becomes less just run out and shoot all the things and more about, the systems of the game. That's, for me, sometimes I just want to sit down and play like Halo for 20 minutes and get through a level. I'll put it on easy and I'll blow through it. But if, like when you put that difficulty up, if the game design is good, you are playing all the systems the way that they were designed to be played.
So can you tell me an example of a game where you went, this is tough, I'm not happy it's tough, let me play it on an easier level?
Mass Effect 2.
Really?
I played Mass Effect 1 to death. I played it on Insanity.
Yeah.
I played it on, the highest difficulty that I could, not on the first playthrough, because you can kind of New Game Plus it.
Yeah, yeah.
So then once you get done with the first game, everything's great, right? And the shooting in that game is not fantastic, but you get through it, you learn how to do it. Once you level up your aim enough, like, your sniper rifle isn't like dancing around the screen like it is towards the beginning.
Right.
So the second game, I was like, okay, I'm going Insanity because, I destroyed Mass Effect 1. It's going to be great. And Insanity to me was too hard, like right from the beginning. And it was a different kind of hard than the first game. It was more like, wow, like I take lots of damage very quickly, and I didn't feel like I was doing enough damage when I was just pop out of cover, pop, and then go back in. I really felt like it was way too much damage coming into me. So I was like, okay, to be fair, I didn't play Insanity on the first playthrough of Mass Effect 1, so let me play through on normal, and then like on my New Game Plus type mode, I'll do Insanity. And what's that first mission where like you go to, was it Mars or someplace?
Oh, yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about.
The first mission where like you show up and it's like, oh, what's going on here? And like, I remember playing it like 5 or 6 times and being like on Insanity, and I was like, I can't play this, and this is no good. And I just remembered thinking, since I knew about the game, I was like, okay, in like 15, 20 hours, I'm going to be surrounded by enemies. There's going to be like those bloody veins all over my screen, and I'm not going to be able to like, so I was like, you know what? I could tell right away that this was not for me. Like it didn't have the feeling of something that I would be, happy with playing, even if I could get by it. I felt like it would be frustrating no matter what. So I just backed it up to normal, and that's where I stayed with Mass Effect 2.
Huh. Now I've beat Mass Effect 2 on Insanity. I know exactly where you're coming from. The biggest hurdle is like the first couple missions in that game. Once you get a few weapons and start leveling up, it really eases out. But it does. It puts up like this gigantic barrier up front where you have no firepower and no skills to use. Right. And quite honestly, not wonderful companions either.
Right. And like there's like these little like 4-legged dog things that I remember, and you're like, dude, they're running at me. Yep. I'm just trying to stay in cover and just survive. And like, nope, 8 really powerful dogs are running at you. So like, to me, I was like, well, if no one's ever told me. I don't even know if I would have played it if someone told me, oh, it eases up. I probably would have been like, whatever, that game made me mad. I'm not going back to it. But, yeah, I mean, I really did enjoy Mass Effect 1 on Insanity. So it's, if the next gen trilogy ever happens, I probably would give it another go. The
problem with, I mean, we won't make this whole Mass Effect 2 show, but, the problem with Mass Effect 2 is your companions are dumb as rocks. So you have to get on Insanity. You have to get so used to leading them by the neck everywhere. You can't let them ever do what they want to do because the AI is stupid.
So you have to turn their auto powers off.
Yeah, you got to use your wheel like crazy. You have to place them in exactly where you want them to be at all times.
See, here's the thing. That, like, I understand, like, how that would work.
Yep.
It doesn't sound like anything I'd have any interest in doing.
Yeah, I understand.
One of my favorite things about 3 was, the whole Better with Connect deal with like, singularity right there.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Okay, you got it. Like, oh, that is beautiful. I played that on Insanity.
Yeah, I did that too. But no, I know where you're coming from, because I did that probably when I played through Mass Effect 2 on Insanity. That first mission,
Yeah.
I probably spent a couple hours getting past it.
I probably spent a little bit less than that, but like I could tell pretty quickly, okay, it's not just, it's like, I don't think it's me. I think it's the way the game wants me to play it, and I don't want to play the game like that.
No, I understand.
And I guess that's the distinction between bad game design. It's just like, and Crysis 2 is another one. Crysis 2 is extremely difficult if you're not playing it the way that they want you to play it. They want you to very slowly and methodically plan your plan of attack in every scenario. And I remember, like, I didn't like it at first. Then, like, I stuck with it. And Crysis 1's the same way. And I stuck with it. And then eventually it was kind of like, not the same kind of game, but like almost like The Last of Us, where like, you don't just barge in The Last of Us. Like, you kind of sneak in, you look at everybody, you figure out your plan of attack, and then you try to execute it. Crysis is the same way. And a friend of mine was like, oh yeah, I never got into those. And I was like, seriously? I just had to figure out how the game wanted me to play it. And now I'm having nothing but fun. And he had a pretty good argument. He said, well, that's the way the game wants me to play it. That's not the way I want to play the game, which I see where he's coming from too, because Mass Effect 2 was like that for me. So it's a pretty deep discussion, and I don't think there's one answer per game. It just it sometimes depends on the player.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a friend, and he plays everything on the absolute lowest difficulty, period. And when I ask him, I'm like, do you get tired of that? And he goes, no, my time's more valuable, right?
I 100% like don't look down on people who play at lower difficulties, which I think would be a thing that some people probably would look and be like, oh, that guy, he's not playing on all Madden. But at the same time, like, and it's not even just now being like, grown up, house, kid, job with the time. Even before I had all that stuff, like if someone's like, no, like my time's too valuable, I'm like, I hear that.
Yeah.
Like it is, there's nothing wrong if you just want to play a game on easy, be done with it in a couple hours. You got it. It's, I don't think there's a wrong way, to play it.
No, and the way he plays games is he does like the GameFly thing. So he just wants to turn and burn, get through a game, get another one, get through it, get another one.
Right.
Whereas I have no problem spending a very long period of time playing one game.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm more about, am I having a ton of fun playing this? Like, I used to fire something up. I was like, okay, I'm going to finish this game.
Yep.
And then after a little while, I did that for a while. I'm like, wow, I'm really glad I did this, because I never would have, I love this game. This game was great. I stuck with this. I made it to the end. I finished a lot of games, but as I've gotten beyond that, I'm like, okay, I'll give it a little while. I'll give it a fair amount of time, and I'll even go back and give some games a few chances that I didn't give. I thought, enough of a chance. But if I'm not having a ton of fun with a game after a fair amount of time, I'm done. I'm not sticking with stuff.
Yeah. And I don't make that call based on judgment. Like you said, I make it based on whether I'm enjoying the experience or not, because, there's been games where I wanted to like them.
Oh, of course.
I'll give you an example.
I don't think you ever go into a game hoping that you're not going to like it. You know what I mean? But like, it's, sometimes you go into an experience thinking, this may not be the best thing ever, but I'm going to give it a go and see what happens. Like, that happens.
Yeah. I'll give you a quick example. Like the last couple, we both have Xbox One and Xbox Live, so they give you the free games, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know if you've played either of the last one or this one, but there was Super Time Force that they gave us for free, which was one of these. It's an indie game, and it's meant to be like, oh, hey, haha, we're going to make fun of 8-bit games and 80s action movies, basically. I wanted to like it for the premise of what it was. I played it for a while, and then I just got to the point where it was difficult, but it wasn't fun.
Right.
It was more like, haha, get to the next pun. Okay, go beat the crap out of yourself again. And I had a weird mechanic that I didn't enjoy. It just seemed to be annoying for annoying's sake. So I just went, I'm done. And then this month we get Volgar the Barbarian, which quite honestly is a blatant Raston ripoff right off the front. They know it, though. They know it.
Right.
The first level is even designed exactly like the first level of Raston. Which I love Raston, right? But again, it's just, it's like right off the bat, it's like, we're just going to beat the crap out of you, and there's really no reward for it. We're going to, every time you die, we're going to kick you way back, and whatever, So there's just no reward at all for doing it. You know what I mean?
Right. And it's like, it really, it spreads across genres. Like there are certain genres that I feel like for sports games, for instance, like I play hockey games a lot, right? I don't want to lose a hockey game. I just don't want to lose it.
Okay.
Like ever.
All right.
So if I'm playing a game, like, I don't want to be like a real life New York Rangers where it's like, oh, well, like, we're like, 38 wins and 22 losses, but like, we're putting up a good fight. Like, I want to be like 56-0. Like, I get, that's how I want to be. I get really frustrated when I lose these games. So like, on the one hand, I want the games to be like realistic and have like, have to really play defense, and like my mistakes are my own and I own that stuff. So it's like, if that's the way it is, okay, like I'll deal with it. But in that, like if I'm playing like a season, like in a hockey game, and I really feel, okay, like I'm out shooting these guys like 38-14, I'm out hitting them, I'm playing super awesome defense, and if I feel like, okay, like a chip puck that like I really should have poke checked, but like, the computer made it go through my stick, gets on the stick of this, 47 out of 100 defensemen, and he gets a shot past Lundqvist. Like, that's the kind of cheap stuff where I'm like, it just drives me crazy. And like, sometimes there's nothing you can do but lower the difficulty. Cause I'm like, well, I'm not going to keep playing with it like this. So like, it's weird because games that I feel are cheap or the difficulty is not, balanced on no matter what you do, I'll just stop playing them.
Yeah.
Like you did with, Super Time Cop Force.
Yeah. Which is strange, but I'll contrast that right back to another game on Xbox One that I played recently that probably had similar or more difficulty at parts was Guacamelee. Right?
I love that game.
I loved it, and I beat that game
to death. Mm-hmm.
It was difficult at times.
There are some moments where, because I really don't like games that just throw more enemies at you. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, like almost like Batman, like towards the end of the Arkham games, it's like, okay, like I know I'm Batman and I can kill everybody, but like, why are you throwing 87 guys at me in one fight? Like, it's not fun. I'm just like button mashing. But yeah, like, Guacamelee did a fantastic job training you the entire game long. This color equals this. This type of enemy is beaten this way. And they do it very gradually. So by the end of the game, you're fighting lots of enemies at once, and you're really kind of string like the fighting together. But absolutely, like there are some very difficult moments in that game, especially if you decide to go like down to like that pit area and do like those like trials, like one after the other. Ugh.
But you felt great when you finished them, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. Even though that was really difficult, I never got to the point. Like even I died a couple times, I never got to the point where I was like, this game's so super cheap. I was always like, I know exactly why I died and it was my fault. I can do it better.
Yeah. And it's tough. And I feel for developers because I look at these games, right? And I go, okay, I really loved Guacamelee. I don't love these other ones. The difficulty on them is all can be pretty challenging. Why some, not the other? Right?
I think it's really difficult for developers to gauge difficulty because they've been playing this game for so long. Mm-hmm. And they've inadvertently just gotten really, really, really good at it, which is why they have testers. But the thing is, if you are a professional video game tester, you're really good at video games. So I think it's a very, very tight rope to walk, with like, okay, get a team who's really good at this game and testers that are really good at this game and balance it for the average person. And the other thing they have working against them, the average video game player is becoming like more and more of a casual player, now as opposed to 15, 20 years ago. And when companies have talked about this, they're like, yeah, like our newer games are easier than the older games in the series because more casual players are playing. We don't want to frustrate them. So, there's a lot of things going against the developers and the publishers of the game, but, that's part of the business.
Yeah. And then we have this opposite effect that seems to be coming back around now where there's some developers are like, they think it's sexy to make punishingly difficult games.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
Kind of go back to, when we were playing games, a lot of the games on the NES and whatnot are tough. They're really hard, right?
Very tough. They couldn't fit a ton onto that cart.
Yeah.
And they didn't want you beating it like in an afternoon, with a couple of buddies. They wanted you playing it for a long time and telling your friends, "Hey, buy this, you'll be playing it forever." So, yeah, a lot of games are extremely difficult.
Yeah.
You fire them up and you are dead, like minute out of the gate. Or like, you get a little bit ways in and then you die and then, okay, you got to start back at the beginning. And on the one hand, it's frustrating, but at the same time, you really had to get really, really good at that game or else you couldn't keep playing it. So you had to improve.
Yeah. And some of that seems to be coming back around. Some of that flavor and that sentiment where there's this, like you say, there's this reaction to the, I like to call it the press A to win games, right?
Sure.
Where if you just put time into it, you will beat the game.
Right.
Right? There's no way you won't win the game if you play it.
Right.
And yeah, these things are out there. There's a lot of, like you say, casual players. I understand the developers have to go out and they have to court these people. So they do it in one of two different ways. I mean, you'll either have the selected difficulty, which I don't know if that's necessarily a cop-out. It's just an option, maybe.
Right. I also, not to interrupt, but I also feel like those are never what they tell you that they are. Like, a lot of games don't just say easy, medium, hard. Like, a lot of them will say, like, okay, easy. If you're new to first-person shooters, start here.
Yeah.
And then medium. If you're familiar with first-person shooters but not familiar with BioShock, start here. And then hard. If you're familiar with BioShock and you want to challenge, like, start, like, because, like, I always answer that honestly. I'm like, okay, I'm not new to first-person shooters. I've played every BioShock game on pretty high difficulty. Let's go. And I'm like, it's either too difficult or too easy. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. I feel like it's a very difficult balance.
It is. So, I mean, that's one way out is to give the selectable difficulties, and the other way is you just have to build something that is what it is, and so either that ends up being too easy or sometimes pretty challenging.
Right.
So I guess if you think about systems and games, and when difficulty is an issue, what is the magic for you, or what gives you that feeling of reward versus this is just drudgery? It's just work that I have to put in,
Yeah, it's hard to point at, like, because if there was one magic thing, everybody would just do that magic thing. For me, when a game's difficult, it's really it's when a developer puts like a magic bullet in to kill you, even though you did everything right.
Yeah.
For like artificial difficulty being higher. Like again, that's one of those things. Okay, make the game longer. Like, make bullets be able to kill you behind concrete, like stuff like that. Like my original example of Call of Duty Modern Warfare 1, very high difficulty, couple of shots and you're dead. I really felt like so now that a couple of shots and you're dead, I have to move very slowly. Now that I have to move very slowly, you start going through, and then, you come around a corner and there's a guy there. By the time you get into your iron sights, okay, he's killed you. Now you've learned, okay, I need to be in iron sights going around unsafe corners because I need to be the first one shooting. Okay, so now you do that. So the systems of the game, just like not by doing anything cheap, but just by following like the conventions of the world, makes you a better player at the game. Anything that goes outside those, like you were saying before, anything that goes outside the normal convention of the game for the purpose of making the game more difficult or killing you or making you try to do something else, that's the piece that really frustrates me, where I'm like, okay, I'm only doing this because they decided this is the way that they, want me to, like, do this one little section. So if it follows the parameters of the world in the game the way it exists and I can get through it, then I feel good about it. If it's anything else, I'm usually frustrated.
I think a big thing for me is if there is a system in place where skill is rewarded, So it's really more if the game is about learning the mechanics and performing the mechanics well. If the mechanics are good to begin with. I mean, that's a given. I enjoy that, right? Because all I know is I just have to become a little better at doing this, then I'll succeed. The ones that turn me off, at least anymore, are the ones where pattern memorization, right? The game is all about pattern memorization.
Right.
It doesn't really matter how good or bad you are at it. Did you know this guy is around the corner and will shoot you? Right. So did you have to die 5 times to figure that out? Or do you have to do something weird or different to get around that situation?
Yep. And the one part in Modern Warfare that frustrated me, it was called No Fighting in the War Room, and missiles are about to launch, so you have like 11 minutes or whatever to get from like your starting point, like all the way to like the missile launching room. And the thing is, it went against the regular convention of the game. You're not supposed to be rushing, and like there's like 2 or 3 points in the game where it's like, okay, you got to get out in 9 minutes, and it's like, okay, the whole game you've been teaching me not to just run out in the open, right. And now you're telling me get to that point in 9 minutes. I'm like, okay, so you have me, and a lot of it felt like luck of the draw. So like I would run for 30 yards and then I would get gunned down. So the next time I ran for 28 yards and then I hid behind a building and then I ran for another 30 yards, so No Fighting in the War Room, you ended up like you went downstairs, guy in the right shot you. He's always there. So now, okay, run down the stairs, shoot the guy in the right. And it feels like Groundhog Day gaming.
Right, yep.
Like I'm not actually playing the systems of the game. And the you know what games do a good job of that? Cause they're like, they want you to experience this, big action sequence, but like they don't want to kill you 30 times like Call of Duty does. Pretty much every like Uncharted game has like 3 or 4 sequences where like you have to like run or escape or like do some, and like it's not a QTE, like you're actually playing, but like it's designed in a way that you know what you're supposed to do, even though like the death of dying is like at every step. So like when you're like running through like a burning building and like you gotta, dodge certain things or like, go a certain way. I always get them on the first or second try and they always feel like, oh, that was so great.
That lets you definitely know that they're doing something right. Right. I'll be honest though. This stuff that's forced cinematics, but play through the cinematic portion, I can really just leave it. If you want to be cinematic, just do a cutscene. Just I'm fine with that. Don't make me do weird things that I don't normally do, or don't put me in like some weird one-time off sequence. Okay, so kind of here's a big question, right? Should a game be difficult at all? Is this something that we need?
I think that's an opinion question. My answer would probably be I don't think a game needs to be difficult. So I don't think every game should be super difficult. I don't think every game should be super easy. There are certainly games that don't need to be difficult. But there's so many different kinds of players out there. Like, I really feel like not just selectable difficulty is the answer, but more than 2 or 3 levels of selectable difficulty, or something like NHL or like the sports games where there's like sliders and tweaks for every single rule or physics or like, something in the game. So that way, if there's like, 37 systems, you can tweak it. But I don't think by any stretch that games need to be difficult.
Yeah, I think it really depends on the game, but kind of like what you were going into earlier, adding difficulty to try to lengthen something, I think is just a bad idea.
Yeah.
If you don't have content, you don't have content. Don't punish me because you messed up when you designed your game. I'm okay. I don't ever feel bad if I play a good game and it was short. Does that bother you?
Not at all.
Yeah, no.
Some of my favorite games in recent years are short games, and this was a big thing for a while, like with Alan Wake and with Portal and with what was it? I guess Bastion's not really that short, but like all these like short game people, like everybody was all like get crazy about it. And I don't even think it's like regular people. I think it really is just the loudest people on the internet and not the majority of the people on the internet. But like short games are awesome. Like, it's a game that's amazing for the amount of time that it's there for, and it doesn't overstay its welcome, and it leaves you wanting to play more. Like, what's bad about that? There's like and then the thing is like everyone complains about short games, and then The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword comes out. It's 50 hours long, and people complain that it's too long.
Right.
Like, what the hell do you want?
Right.
I just felt it was too long. It's a Zelda game. It should be like 18.5, 18.7 hours. Like, is it fun or not? Like,
Yeah.
I really don't understand the people who are like, oh, this game was awesome, but but it's only 7 hours long. It's not a $60 game. It's a $24 game.
Yeah.
Like, fun is fun.
Yeah. Like recently, I played through The Wolf Among Us.
Mm-hmm.
It was great. And it's short. It's really short.
And you loved the Walking Dead Telltale games.
I did.
And so this is the same guys, obviously. So, is this a similar thing where it's like a subscription deal with chapters?
Yeah.
Okay. And you played through the entire thing?
It didn't take me very long to play through the whole season.
Really? Like, maybe like less than 7 hours?
Probably around that.
Okay. I have zero issues with that. Like, one of the biggest knocks against Alan Wake when it came out was like, oh, it's under 10 hours. Like, who cares? Like, the entire 10 hours is awesome.
Yeah. So again, don't ratchet weird things into your game just to try to lengthen these things out.
Right.
I don't know who these people are that are complaining, like you say, but that's not going to come from me. I don't have that issue. I think I'd rather that than the other, right? Don't drag me along forever if you don't need to.
Right.
If you've got content, great. I'm there. If not, that's okay.
If your Fallout style game, just if it has that much world to it and that much, many interesting quests and places to explore, I'm on board. Like, where do I put my 100 hours? Like, right there. Okay. But like, yeah, if it's like, okay, if you have a 3-hour great game, like, don't just make it 12 hours, like, for the sake of making it 12 hours.
Yeah, I mean, like, on the same hand as I loved The Wolf Among Us. It was really great. I played it. I just sunk a couple months into Dark Souls, and I had about 100 hours in to beat that. You know what I mean? And I loved it too. And it has a much different difficulty and time investment, but quality games are good. I think that's good. So when it comes down to things like rewards, right? What are the systems in place that make you feel good about playing a difficult game?
They used to be achievements.
Oh, all right. There you go.
They are not achievements anymore.
No?
I have no problem with people who love achievements.
Sure, yeah.
I used to be in the tribe. I used to be on 360 achievements. I used to have checklists printed out.
Oh.
I used to care more about the achievements that I wanted to get to 1,000 points. I wanted to, like, max a game out. Something snapped one day where I just started to realize, like, I wasn't, like, whatever the current game I was playing and the achievement I was going for, I was like, I'm not having any fun.
Oh, yeah.
And I almost, like, cold turkey, like, in one day was like, I don't care about achievements anymore. like I had more than anyone that I knew had, and I don't really have that many. This was kind of like when achievements were new. I had like 50,000 or something. Mm-hmm. And that was back when, like, people would see that and be like, whoa, I didn't know it went that high. And, like, now they have 1 million and people have 800,000 and stuff. But
yeah.
Like, I really, it used to be achievements, and the way I used to justify it is, I didn't really care so much about the achievement per se, but a lot of achievements made you play the game differently.
Oh, yeah.
And I appreciated that different look. So there's in Half-Life 2, there's an area called Ravenholm that's kind of like it's like the middle of the game, or like the early to middle of the game, where you have to go through this area that's filled with, like, the face huggers and, like, the zombify dudes. And it's a little on the scary side. It's not the regular, like, action shooter that Half-Life normally is. And there was an achievement for playing through that entire segment using only the gravity gun. Now, the gravity gun, you can, like, grab something, with the gravity gun, and then you can fire it. So you would grab a box, fire it. You grab a buzzsaw, like, fire it. There wasn't always a lot of stuff to use. So, like, sometimes you'd be faced with some enemies and you had to figure out creative ways to get around them. So, like, I remember getting that achievement and I was like, that was awesome. Like, I didn't really care about like the 30 points in the achievement or having the achievement. I just thought it was cool to play the game in a different way. Kind of like the way the NES remix games have you do things differently with the, on the Wii U.
Oh yeah, that's great.
So, yeah, for a while it was achievements. I really, I made a conscious decision to stop caring about achievements. I don't look at them anymore. Once in a while they'll pop up and I'm like, oh cool, I got an achievement, but like whatever. But yeah, that was one of the things I was like, okay, does this game have an achievement for being as a higher difficulty? And if it didn't, I didn't raise the difficulty for a bit. And just after a while, I was like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, I'll just do it, rationally instead of achievement based.
Yeah, I hear where you're coming from with that, because I wonder how much that does influence people's play style.
It definitely does. Like, if there's, I'm not saying everybody's like, if there's not an achievement for max difficulty, they're not doing max difficulty, but they're planning their playthrough of the game with the achievement list, because if there's achievements that are missable, they don't want to play the game a second time. And it's not because they don't want to play the game a second time. It's just because they have other games that they want to play to get the achievements in. I'm a recovering addict. Like, I understand the sickness.
Okay.
So,
but it's very meta, right?
Very, very. That's all it is. It's just a great big meta game. And again, there's a bunch of dudes on RF Gen who are big achievement hunters, and that's fine. That's totally cool. And if you love it, that's great. I'm just saying, like, it took me a while to kind of realize that playstyle wasn't for me, and it was all of it. One of the games that pulled me out of achievements was Super Mario Galaxy.
Yeah, because there's none, right?
I wasn't playing anything other than 360 because I wanted achievements. And then Super Mario Galaxy came out, and I was like, well, I've heard it's really good. Let me buy it and play it. And I bought it and played it. And for the first time in like the longest time, I was like, I've had more fun playing this game with no achievements than I've had playing anything on Xbox in the last 6 months. And it's just because the game is great. And that's one of the things that pulled me away from okay, don't care about the achievements. Find a great game. Once you find the great game, if you want to go for achievements, totally cool. But I was not even paying attention to the game. It's just, if there was achievements in it I didn't have, I had to have them.
Yeah.
Did you ever get onto the achievement band?
I didn't. I mean, I've been on Xbox for, I don't know, forever. I think my live profiles is 11 years. Yep. I still haven't cracked 50,000 points. So I mean, that probably tells you.
You kind of have to try, because most games, because when the first batch of games that came out, like King Kong and NHL 2K7 or whatever, just by playing the game, you got to 1,000 points, because no one had kind of figured out how to do achievements. Right. And then after a while, it was they're very specific and you have to try for them. So a lot of times, if you're not specifically looking at the achievement list, you could finish the single player in a game, play a little bit of multiplayer, and you have 240 of 1,000 points.
Yeah.
Because you have to, you have to intentionally go for them.
Yeah. I mean, just again, an example, Dark Souls, right? I looked through some of the lists of achievements in there. A lot of them are just get all of these, max all of this out, and that's not fun to me. That's not the fun part. The game itself is really good. Yeah. That's the part I want to play. I don't really care to do these other things.
The worst set of achievements I've ever seen was for one of my favorite games on the PlayStation 3 called Heavy Rain.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, Heavy Rain is a game that is all about your experience, your story. Depending on what you do, the story changes. You're not supposed to, restart if if someone dies and you didn't want them to. It's well, that's what happens in your game. But it didn't mean for it to happen. It doesn't matter. That's what happens in your story. There's achievements in Heavy Rain view every ending. View every possible scenario for the kitchen scene. View everything. It's dude, what, where is the fun in that?
Right.
You're just asking someone to play the game 7 times in the 7 different, possible ways. That's not fun at all.
Yeah.
and David Cage, who designed the game, he got up and and this is where I realized, sometimes the developer has nothing to do with the achievement list, because he got up and told people, don't restart. don't play it again. Your one playthrough is your one playthrough, and it's filled with achievements. View every possible ending to the game. It's like, no, don't do that.
Yeah, they didn't come up with that stuff, huh? So
No.
the publisher says this is how we can maximize.
You know what?
Time.
We can get people playing it longer if this happens, and then they can say, "Oh, it's on the top 7 played PS3 games for this week."
That, and they've companies have had to get themselves into this weird spot, which is don't flip your game to GameStop, right?
Sure.
If we can keep you playing it, it doesn't go back to GameStop.
And they've told companies that for a game to, the wording isn't relevant, but they're like, they said your window to release downloadable content that will stop people from trading the game back in, your window is like 30 to 45 days. So most companies aim to have at least one piece of DLC out within the first month and a half, because if 2 months have gone by and there's no additional content, most people have moved off the game.
That makes sense.
At least the kind of people who are constantly buying new games from places like GameStop, because they just flip through them.
Right. Yeah, they buy it, take it, trade it in, get the next thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that has made a big impact in how difficulty is implemented, right? Because like you said before, with PS2 or whatever, and before then, if there was difficulty selection, you picked the one that you felt like playing. Right? And
then the other thing, and then when the achievements came in, like, if you try, like, there's another layer in there, like, okay, if you choose I'm going to start with standard. And then it would tell you, well, just so you know, Bill, there's an achievement if you beat it on the highest difficulty. So if you change, or like, let's say you start on the highest one, and then someone gets 2 hours in and they're like, you know what, this isn't for me, I'm going to back it down. You go to back it down, it's like, are you sure you want to do this? Because there's an achievement if you do it like this. And now you're trying to convince people, okay, don't play at a level that's comfortable for you. Go for the achievement. So, I don't know, just another layer of complexity to the issue, I guess.
Yeah, and I think if you're not careful, it can be detrimental, because it could take a game that you probably would have had fun with and turn it into a chore, right?
Right. Yeah, and it's like, I play a lot of Civilization 5, and I play on a lot of different difficulties. Like, just because I'm a better than average player doesn't mean I play on, like, higher difficulty all the time. Sometimes I'm just looking for a game where, like, 5 civs aren't looking to go to war with me all at once, so I play on 1 or 2. Like, it just depends on, like, the type of game I'm looking for.
Some kind of games deal with difficulty different in general, right? So you have a lot of games where they do right up front, hey, how hard do you want it to be?
Right.
But I think I sometimes have more appreciation for the way some other games handle difficulty. We can go with like a classic example of every Super Mario game ever, right?
Sure. This game is what it is.
Right. You have no choice in difficulty. It starts out pretty easy. We're going to teach you each technique as you play through the game. By the time you get to the end, it's going to be pretty tough.
Yep, we'll give you a suit here and there, and we'll give you opportunities to learn the suit powers.
So they always, at least for quite some time, since Super Nintendo, then they go, all right, and then what we're going to do is add these extra levels at the end that are really hard. If you want to do them.
If you want to be like a madman about it. And Bionic Commando did that. And it's funny to me that like a remake of like a classic NES game did this, like with like the challenge rooms and stuff. Like, okay, if you want to, and the thing is, the games had like hidden items scattered throughout them. Okay, if you wanted to be, the exploration guy or like really go above and beyond, but on top of that, there was the challenge rooms that had, that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's a really good example with with all the Super Mario games.
But here's something that I wonder about Nintendo, because this has been kind of the model they've run off of, except for the last few. Right, the last few they've put in this, well, if you die enough times, we're going to give you an item that basically makes you unkillable.
And I do like that it's optional.
Yeah, you don't have to take the power up.
Yep, you can walk by that, but like, who's not going to take the invincible mushroom once you died 15 times?
Yeah, because it's just too easy to do it, right?
Right. And on the one, like, I'm totally with you on this, because the first time this happened to me, I'm playing, like, New Super Mario 3D or whatever the game it was in. And I'm like, that wasn't there before.
Right.
And then I grab it and then I'm like, oh, that's like a 30-second Game Genie.
Yeah, it's your press A to win again, right?
Yeah.
Nintendo's going to come along and go, don't feel bad that you suck. Here, we'll just give you the keys and you don't have to be good anymore. Right?
That's what we're talking about. Okay. Yeah, so I understand the need for that. You have younger and younger people playing. You want to keep people playing on your platform as long as possible. Frustration is a big roadblock for a lot of people to continue playing games. Like, I get it. And I try not to be grumpy old man with everything, with like, oh, that's not how you couldn't just grab the magic whip in Castlevania and just kill the dragons at the beginning of level 5. Like, I try to kind of understand, like, like, I'm a real big, like, adapt or die person. Like, if you can't adapt to it, like, just get out of here, because, that's the industry moves forward with you or without you, and that goes for everything. So, like, on the one hand, I get it, but I see how people could be like, oh, well, that's a press A to win situation.
Yeah, and I'm not really trying to beat up good, bad, or otherwise. It's just, it's a thing, right? It's a change that's come about. I look at other games like Minecraft, right?
Mm-hmm.
My 5-year-old daughter, Maddie, she likes to play Minecraft, and there are 2 modes to that game. There's like the survival mode where you actually have bad guys, and then there's the creator mode where there's no bad guys at all, right?
Right, just sandbox, right?
Yeah, you just do whatever you want to do, and you don't have to worry about it. And that's the only way she'll play that game, right?
I've heard from so many parents of like 5 to 7-year-olds that all they play is copious amounts of Minecraft.
Yeah, she'll just sit and build a house, and then she'll say, come here, Dad, I'm going to take you a tour of my house.
Right.
Okay.
And there's no difficulty in that. You just sit down and you do what you're going to do.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make it less of a game. It doesn't make the person playing it less of the, quote unquote gamer, which, like, I'm getting more and more sick of that tag, like, the more, like, time that goes by.
Yeah.
Like,
especially
like,
things like Gamergate.
Yeah. Like, how about I'll just be guy who likes video games once in a while, and, like, you don't need to include me in any of your stuff.
Yeah. Just enjoy the hobby. That's all, right? Like,
it's and the thing is, like, and everyone wants to be, it's either like, oh, you're not a hardcore gamer, you're not a hardcore.
Boy, yeah, hardcore gamer.
I'm not hardcore? Okay. It doesn't bother me. I am what I am. But, like, people get all bent out of shape, like, oh, she's not a real Final Fantasy fan. She doesn't know that 4 and 6 and 2, she doesn't know the numbers. She doesn't know who, Nobuo Uematsu is. Okay, like, just calm down. Like, there's enough, like, exclusion everywhere that, like, we don't need to find more reasons to exclude people.
And just we're talking about games, man. They're just for fun, right? Yep. They're just for fun.
And like, somehow there's this group of people has, like, somehow, like, taken, like, moral ownership, and they're going to be, like, the game police and tell people, like, well, if you're a person who tells someone that they, like, are not you need to tell someone else, like, oh, like, you're not this. You're the problem.
Yeah.
In the situation. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. Like, it's almost like when, so, like, the World Cup, right? So the World Cup happens, and then people who are really into that sport, they, like, give the people who aren't normally into it, they give them crap. They're like, oh, you're not a real fan. You're just into it because it's World Cup right now. So? Who cares? Yeah. Who cares? That's a person who's into the thing that you're into.
Or the people that just watch the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, why wouldn't you include that person in the thing that you love? Like, isn't that the point? Like, maybe if you include them, they'd want to be into it more often and not be like, oh, I don't want to be into that thing. Everyone involved with it is a jerk. Which is why I don't have an Android phone. But that's another story.
Oh, okay.
Just going to put that one out there and let you let that fester.
Okay.
It's a great device. I just don't want to be in the jerky phone club.
Oh, right. That's Bill. Remember Bill, not me. But coming back to games and difficulty. Oh
yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, I want to stop and kind of bring it back into When you're dealing with games, we kind of talked about some of this, that, that time is a factor. Have you ever sit down and gone, this game is difficult and I know it's going to take me forever to play it. So even regardless if I'm enjoying myself, I'm just going to not do that.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
And time's a big factor for me. Has that happened for you?
If I'm enjoying it, I'm okay with just, because the amount of time I'm going to devote to gaming doesn't change much. It's just,
sure, I'm
going to focus on this game for a long time to get it done.
Right. Okay. So that's usually how it is for me too. When I look at a game and I think, okay, it's going to take me a long time to learn this game, to get proficient at it. And then even once I'm proficient at it, it's a game that takes up a lot of time. More often than not, I will just say, you know what, maybe this game isn't for me. I'm going to play something else. And maybe I move off of games too quickly. And difficulty is definitely a factor. We've mentioned it a few times in this show already, but Dark Souls, I own it. I played it for less than an hour. And the thing is, it's that same situation. I know if I stick with it, study, how I'm supposed to play it, the character classes, how to defend, how to move around, I know I could get proficient at it and be really good at it. But, it's not that I'm not willing to put the time in. It's just, I feel like for what I know about myself, I don't think that once all that's done, I don't think I'd have as much fun with it as I would other games that I know that I would, just love to play. But yeah, difficulty definitely has a say in that conversation.
No, I can respect that a lot. I had another friend, we were talking, and he asked me about Dark Souls and playing it, and I said, I really enjoyed it. I think it's a great game. But I know him, right? And he was asking me, I said, I'm just letting you know, I don't think this is probably something it would be your thing, right? Mm-hmm. Not because he's not good at games or anything else. I know that it's probably more time and work than he'd want to put into it. Right. So no, I completely understand that.
And my sister's boyfriend, it's the only game he played for months and months and months.
Yeah.
And it would come up in conversation, and I was like, what are you playing? He's like, oh, just Dark Souls. He's like every bit of and he's not he's a bit of a gamer, but he's he's really just a dude who has an Xbox and plays Madden once in a while. Mm-hmm. The dudes who all they do is buy Madden when it comes out every year and FIFA, and that's it. But somehow he got his hands on Dark Souls, and because he he's into RPGs, or he was when he was a kid, and something about that game just clicked with him, and 200 hours of Dark Souls in the last year. You know what I mean? So it's there's always that part of me that's if I really think that it could be for me, I'll give it enough of a chance, because what if it's that magic game for you?
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of go back and I look at it and I go, I have X amount of time I've allotted to spend playing video games. I could either play lots of shorter games, or I could play maybe one really big one. Mm-hmm. And I'm okay with that either way. I'm okay with going, okay, I'm going to miss out on a few things. It's okay,
Do you ever, it's kind of off difficulty topic, but do you ever have such a hard time deciding what to play that you don't play anything?
Yeah, I have this hard time. Every time I finish up a game, I have this hard time where
Absolutely.
Yeah, I almost don't want to start something because I'm I don't know.
Oh man,
right?
I'm so this is looking into a mirror. I have this exact same thing where you finish something, then you look at all your other games and you're this is a daunting decision. For a long time, I would look at my list of games on Steam, or look at my physical games at my house, or go to my parents' house. Okay, what do I want to check out from the library of me? And just spend so much time with that thought.
Yeah.
And then I wouldn't play anything. So very recently I made the decision, okay, whenever I can't decide what to play, I'm just going to start up a random game. So I just started, okay, I can't decide what to play. I'm playing Bastion for a half hour, or something like that.
Sure.
So, and that actually got me back into like the mode of like actually playing games again.
Yeah, most of the time, like if it's a really big, heavy game, sometimes I'll take a week or two off.
Sure.
And just,
just hold my calls.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm just gonna, wait and see what strikes me. Sometimes it's nice to get a little palate cleanser and play something small and dumb and get it out of the way.
Oh yeah, almost always like if you finish like a Final Fantasy or like a Fallout or something, it's like, okay, give me a 3-hour, fun little guy.
Yeah. But like finished up Dark Souls, I rolled right into Dark Souls 2, and I'm kind of feeling like,
oh really?
I'm like, I don't know.
Glutton for punishment?
I'm starting to get the feeling with this because I'm looking at, I know what time is, right? I know the holidays are upon us, and I also know there's some big releases I want to play. So I'm thinking, I don't know if I'll finish it, right? Maybe I'll get into it and maybe I'll put it down for a while and come back.
That's another thing that contributes. So like when you sit down and choose what game to play, difficulty is a factor, the amount of time it'll take is a factor, and releases that are upcoming are a factor. Like for me, like with Far Cry 4 right around the corner, and with Kingdom Hearts December 2nd, and I haven't committed to the Master Chief Collection, but like I'm very curious about it. Like that's a factor in like if I go to sit down and play a game. Okay, let's say I was going to play Dark Souls right now.
Yep.
I know I don't have enough time to play through Dark Souls by the time Far Cry comes out, and probably not like by the time Kingdom Hearts comes out. So like more often than not, I just it's okay. Like I'm just not even going to start it, because if I start it, I know I'm going to stop.
Oh, I agree completely. That's why, I mean, like, I was playing Dark Souls, and like the last month community playthrough came up, and they were doing Alan Wake, and I was like, I've always kind of wanted to play Alan Wake, but
It's great.
I was so far into Dark Souls, I didn't want to stop.
Yeah.
And so I just knew, I was like, I can't even start Alan Wake. It's not going to happen. Right? It's just not going to happen.
And to your earlier point about short games, like that's where short games are amazing.
Yeah.
Like if you've never played Portal and you have like, okay, I've got 4 days until Far Cry 4 comes out. What should I play real quick? Play Portal.
Oh yeah, definitely. Right.
You'll be done with it, or like an Alan Wake or something like that. So, but yeah, like it's, difficulty is only a factor about whether or not I play a game when it's something like Dark Souls that's known for being brutally difficult. But that's typically it's game length is what determines what I play next, because I kind of have a schedule of releases and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and not to spend forever on Dark Souls, but I hear that all the time, brutal difficulty. I would not say it's brutally difficult.
The first time I played Dark Souls, I was at a press event, and I walked up to a machine that had Dark Souls on it, and I had never played it before, and it was past the tutorial, so it wasn't like teaching me how to play stuff. And I just walked, through this like castle area, and this like big like looked like a bison, like this big like four-legged animal, just runs me over.
Yeah,
and I was like, oh. This is I forgot. Yeah, this is that game that's supposed to be really hard. But I'm probably just playing it like an idiot. So, and then when I first got Dark Souls, I fired it up. And what's that like first room you go into where like that thing like bashes through the wall and you have to like run away through like the hole in the door or something like that? Like, I don't know. I haven't gotten far enough in the game where I'd really say like it I thought it was brutally difficult, but it's the reputation of the game doesn't help me in starting to play it.
It does. That's why I wonder if it scares people off, quite honestly. But
it has to.
This isn't the Dark Souls show, but
it's weird. So speaking of a very difficult but yet very accessible game, Super Meat Boy.
Okay, now I've not played that one.
I think Super Meat Boy. It's the same thing. I think it does have a reputation of being brutally difficult, but I don't think it scares people away. Because it is such an accessible game, and it's not like, like the levels are like 10 seconds long. If you die, okay, just try that 10-second level again,
Okay, yeah.
I'm a little surprised you haven't played Super Meat Boy. It's with, kind of the platforming nature of it and the 8-bit style. It's very good.
Yeah, just the backlog is so huge, right?
Sure.
And I have to keep other things in mind, too. I have to go like, all right, I know Far Cry 4 is coming up, and I know, I'll probably want to play that online with Bill. So if I want to do
Right.
that, I have to be playing it not too long after it comes out, because that's probably when you're going to be playing it, right?
Right. Yeah. I'm gonna be pre-ordering that. And actually, now that I brought up Super Meat Boy, what's it called? One of the things that I don't mind about games that are super difficult is, are the stages very short and can I retry them instantly?
Okay, yeah.
Because if something is insano difficult, like the later stages of any Trials game, if I couldn't immediately restart and retry, if I had to go to like a loading screen or something, game over. I am out of there. But like the levels loaded up, I couldn't make it over like 19 loop-de-loops or whatever. Not only are there checkpoints on the stage, but like, I can hit a button to like restart the whole thing. But like if you die or crash or whatever, in less than half a second, you're at the front of the race and like you're trying a game. Again, very much like Super Meat Boy, where like if you die, okay, new guy go. Die, new guy go. Die, new guy go. So like it's just like, it's one try right after the other. It's very difficult, but like and the most rewarding part of that is once you beat a stage without you even telling it to, until you hit the A button, it will play a replay of your ghost character beating the stage, but it's every single ghost character of the entire time it took you to beat it. So you could be watching like 80 ghost characters all dying in different places, like all at the same time, because they go at the same time.
Oh, okay.
So like if it took you 46 tries and you got on the 47th, right after you get it, it'll show you a ghost replay of 47 Meat Boys. And then like, you can see like, oh, like that's where I died the first time, that's where I died the second time. And the thing is, only one of them makes it.
Right.
So it's always fun trying to figure out like, oh, which one is the little guy that's going to make it, because they're all going at the same time. But that's two examples. So Super Meat Boy and Trials, for the same reason, can be very difficult, but it's just like play, as opposed to like Dark Souls or something like it, where it's like, oh, you died. Oh, okay. Well, let's rethink this. Let's get back in there and see what we can do with it. It's like, nope, just instantly let me play again.
Yeah, and I will say that as long as their checkpoints are reasonable, I'm okay with it, right? I don't, I never want to have to replay like an hour worth of something, right?
No, I don't even want to replay like, I honestly don't want to replay anything. Like if I made it through like a decent chunk of gameplay, that's a good place for a checkpoint. If like, and oh my God, is there anything worse than a checkpoint right before an unskippable cutscene?
Yeah, that should be game design 101, right?
Is there anything worse than that?
There should never be
and then you're like,
unskippable
and you're like,
cutscenes.
Yeah, that's number one. And then the next part is put one right in front of a really hard area where people are going to die 13 times and have to watch your unskippable cutscene.
Yeah, I would turn a game off.
Oh man,
I would turn a game off at that point in time.
No deal.
Yeah, but I know what you mean. I mean, like going back at Guacamelee, tough game, but the checkpoints were pretty frequent, and dying was not a huge penalty, right?
No, yeah, I mean, you'd fall off a ledge, and you were like, it's almost like when you fell into death, you just respawned at like instantly. Yeah. Like it wasn't like, oh, do you want to respawn? You were dead and alive before you knew you were dead. Yeah. And you just got to keep playing, which, was fantastic.
Yeah, and even something like, go back to Dark Souls. It's very tough, but I felt that the checkpoints are frequent enough to where you never had some terrible thing you had to redo.
Is that what they use as campfires?
Yeah, there's bonfires as your checkpoints. So
okay. Yeah,
as long as you make it to the next one, then you're good. You can keep going from there.
Do you heal when you hit a bonfire?
Yeah. And your health refill, your refill items replenish.
So, like, if you have one arrow in your quiver, you now have max arrows?
No. You have, at least in the first one, the way you're, like, healing potions, if you will. It's called Estus flasks. But every time you go to a bonfire... Like the model
rockets?
What's that?
Like the model rockets?
I don't know.
Estus?
Yeah, it's Estus. Huh. Estus flask. I don't know why. But let's say, you get 5 of them. Well, then as soon as you go back to the bonfire, you'll get 5 again, you know?
Oh, okay.
Or if you've leveled it up 10 or 15 or 20 or whatever. But that's not only it fills up your health, it wipes your status clean. It also gives you all of your healing items back. But it also respawns all the enemies. So,
oh, really? So if you go backwards, they're there again?
Yes, every time you go to a bonfire, it respawns all enemies.
Wow.
So that's a consideration, right? It's risk versus reward. Oh, but also sometimes good, right? So you can farm.
Can you walk by a bonfire and choose not to do anything
Absolutely,
at it?
yeah.
Okay. I don't know if it was because in Alan Wake, when you walk into like a spotlight, it automatically does some stuff, and it's like that's your checkpoint and blah blah blah. So, but you have a choice; you can just walk right by it.
Yep. But if you die, you'll go back to whatever the last bonfire that you rested at was. So, you
Jerks.
know. Yeah, but it's okay. But no, it's a good game. It's a good game. So,
if a buddy of yours ever said to you like, "Oh, hey, I played this game," would you ever say to that person, "Oh, did you play it on the highest difficulty?"
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. I feel like that's a thing with people. Like, I remember telling my brother, oh, because he played Guitar Hero, like the original, like the first and the second one. He played them on Expert.
Oh,
and I told him, I was like, oh, I beat Guitar Hero 2. And he was like, you beat it, like you finished it on Expert? And I was like, no, I'm like, I'm new to, I just play on Medium. And he's like, he's like, because I consider finishing it beating every song on Expert.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And I was like, oh, so that's a way that people think. So it's like they think that it really is like a status thing. Like
competition, yeah.
Yeah. I like, well, you didn't really finish it.
Right. I'm better than you. Right.
Nana boo boo. So I don't know. Like I don't know if it's just like, because I feel like I am competitive, but at the same time, like I don't need to conform to like someone's definition of like, oh, you're not really this unless you do it this way, you know? But I do feel like there's that sense of, you know, if I do things on the higher difficulty, I'm better than you.
Yeah, I mean, I understand where you're coming from. I mean, things like when I played the Mass Effect games on Insanity, I don't care if anybody else ever knows about that, right? I did it because I enjoy doing it.
Right. There's always a couple of friends who like I'll compare achievements with and just kind of rib them a little bit, like, oh, I see that, you know, like you got almost as many as me or something. And it's, you know, it's just in fun, you know.
Yeah, sure.
But like, yeah, it's. I know exactly where you're coming from. Like, I do it, but like, I don't need to broadcast it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, sometimes it's fun. I mean, you might say that I did it just to put it out there. Like, yes, you know, I'm excited I did this. Right. But not like, oh, because you suck, because you can't do it.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, it's nothing like that. I don't, because I'll be really honest, I'm not a fantastic gamer.
I've said it a ton of times. I'm like the worst person at video games who loves video games.
Yeah.
I'm really not good, especially Nintendo. Like Krabby, like it's like I watch his videos, his playthrough videos because like I enjoy them, but like they also just make me not want to play Nintendo games anymore because I'm like I watch them and I'm like I'm worse at Nintendo games than I thought I was. Especially like Darkman, like things that are actually difficult.
Krabby's kind of a savant, I think.
Yeah, I would say that.
I mean, I'm pretty good at some of them just because I have just that muscle memory from childhood. It's still there. But it doesn't necessarily mean I can pick up one that I'm not as familiar with and do fantastically at it. But I don't think that's it, right? It's, I think, you know, neither of us are ever going to be in like professional league gamer or something. No. Nor do we want to be, right?
No, I don't want to be at all.
It's a hobby.
You know what I noticed about like I forget the dude's name. But the Asian dude who's like the champion at like Marvel Capcom and like all these different fighting games.
Oh yeah.
I forget his name.
I can see his face.
Yeah,
yes.
I can see his face now too. So like, I didn't know who he was because I'm not in the fighting game scene.
Right.
But it was at PAX a couple years ago, and someone's like, "Oh, you know who that is? That's blah blah blah." And I was like, "Oh, I've heard of him. He's like a champion." And like this like joystick company had paid him, you know, for the weekend just to like, you know, stand at their booth and like play, you know, Marvel Capcom.
Oh yeah.
Like on the joystick, and he was playing on the highest difficulty, and he was like perfecting the computer like every time.
Sure.
And I remember just watching him play, and I was like, wow, that's really impressive. But then like I'm looking at his face, dude looks like he could not care any less that he was like standing here like at a thing like playing games.
It's a job.
Like, yeah, like none of these like super awesome, like except for like the Dota guys who like you really feel like they're like in like a war room, like, you know, on these teams and like they explode when they win and all this stuff. Like all these like fighting game guys, except like at the tournaments when like, you know, they're on stage and like they're pumping fists and stuff.
Yeah.
None of them look like they're ever having any fun playing these games.
It's a job.
Yeah. I
think about it,
my
right?
job though.
Yeah, no, I mean, but imagine that you are stuck playing one game all the time.
Yeah, you're on a desert island with free power from the power company.
You get one game.
You get one game, not even a whole genre like Rich wanted us to have. You just get one game. I'd get pretty sick of it.
Yeah, so it's got to be tough. But I love watching some of those Street Fighter tournaments and stuff. It's exciting.
What was that?
But
you definitely know better than I would. What's that one tournament that was the best thing I've ever seen?
Oh, you're talking about that Evo win where this is Street Fighter 3, that Daigo parries all those super moves.
Parries every move in the world and then beats the dude, and the roof came off that place. I want to watch it right now. Just thinking about it.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about there.
So if I search for it, I just search for Evo.
Daigo, Evo. Yeah, you could probably just parry whatever. You'll find it.
Or like Street Fighter parry tournament.
Or just Daigo, Evo, probably something. You'll find it. All right, well, I want to wrap by just kind of ending out with, I mean, obviously it's our show, our opinions. So when you go into a game and you're looking at something from the outside, you're going and you're picking something off the shelf like we talked about before. What do you look for personally in terms of difficulty? What appeals to you?
I don't go to a lot of stores. I use the internet.
Okay, so you're picking a new Steam game.
Right. When I'm looking at my virtual storefront, it's become almost like an instinct. Like Steam has this feature now where they call it like your queue or something like that. I forget what they call it. But like when you load up Steam, it's like based on the types of games, not just the types of games you own, but the types of games the games you're actually playing. Mm-hmm. It will give you recommendations based on those. And it bases that on like, the ratings that people give games who play the same games that you were playing on a regular basis. So like what I'll do is I'll open up Steam and I'll go through the queue and it'll say like, okay, Wolfenstein: The New Order. And I can say, not interested. Get what's next. And they'll say, oh, Lego The Hobbit. And I'm like, okay, not interested. What's next? And then it'll be like Tropico 5. And I'm like, why are they asking me about Tropico? And then it's like, oh, because you play Civ. And I'm like, oh, well, tell me more. And then, you know, like I'll look at things. So like a lot of it comes from like, is it like things that I already like? Or, you know, like that's kind of how I browse around for Steam. Everything else is like, you know, I feel like I know about the games that I want months before they come out, unless there's like a surprise. Like Far Cry 4 or like, you know, Kingdom Hearts or NHL. Like I know those franchises. I know those developers. Everything else that happens is kind of from people that I know. Like if Fleech is like, oh, have you guys heard of To the Moon? Like, no, what is that? It's like, oh, it's really good. You should play it, you know, type thing. So I'm not really a go out and like, you know, like a lot of people, they're like, okay, I got $60. I want to buy a game. What should I buy? Mm-hmm. I'm just not like that. Like,
sure.
I never just go out shopping for a game. Like, I kind of know what I'm going to get, like, a while before it comes out.
Well, kind of sticking with the theme of difficulty, mm-hmm. right? So what are the difficulty characteristics in a game that you look for?
The only thing that difficulty comes in is, like, if I feel like if the game has a reputation for being very difficult, I'm less likely to get it.
Okay.
Which was my big deterrent from Dark Souls.
Okay.
It wasn't as much of a deterrent from Super Meat Boy because, you know, like I said before about the accessibility. Mm-hmm. And N+, which is a very similar game to Super Meat Boy, same thing, very difficult but very accessible. Like when I'm looking for a game, I'm never thinking, okay, like, is this going to be too easy? Is it going to be not easy enough? Like, what are the difficulty parameters of this game? I'm more just thinking like, okay, there's a new Far Cry game and I want it. Or there's a new Civ game and I want it. The only time difficulty becomes an issue is like, I I think, or like, I've heard, or that game's supposed to be really difficult, I'm going to pass, or I'm going to, wait till I can play it before I, put the money down.
Okay. If you learn that difficulty is there, but it's more of a time sink, is that a bigger issue then?
I have to really, really, really like the game, the series, or the genre if it's going to be like a large time commitment.
Yep.
Like Fallout. Like if I didn't really love that series, that franchise, that type of game, I wouldn't have gone back to New Vegas ever, because like the best case scenario for like not spending time on it is like, okay, I'll throw like, a number of hours into it and I'll know it's not for me. Or if I throw some hours into it and I find, okay, like, actually it is better than I ever gave it credit, I'm going to keep playing this. That is dozens of hours. So like I really, really have to be into a series or a franchise or a genre for me to put a large amount of time, or even before I buy it. Like I kind of knew with Skyrim going in, okay, this is all I'm playing for 8 months. But like I was cool with that. It's my favorite game ever. But, yeah, it's, man, time's more of a factor for me than difficulty.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I'm right there with you. I don't, difficulty up front is not a big issue to me. It's more of how rewarding is my time investment in it. Mm-hmm. And I don't even know, to me, it's not necessarily even total time to play the game. It's more of how rewarding is the time I spend in it. So again, a couple of games I've played recently, very difficult. I didn't feel they were rewarding at all.
Right.
Dark Souls, I felt very rewarded for the time that I put into it. So that was okay. Mm-hmm. So I think that's important, right? So difficulty itself is not always a big deal. It's more of, do I get what I want out of the game?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, so, let us know what you guys think about difficulty. I mean, does it turn you off? Is it broken these days? Is it we have too many push A to win games?
Yeah, we didn't talk we talked about the push A to wins. We didn't talk about games that are too easy all that much, but I think a lot of games that are too easy have adjustable difficulty. I wonder if there's anyone out there on a game that doesn't have adjustable difficulty is like, oh, that game was way too easy.
Yeah, I'd be curious to hear, because I can't, at least unless it was maybe a child's game, I can't think of a game I've run into that I went just like, well, that was ridiculously simple.
Yeah, Mickey Safari and Letterland wasn't as challenging as I kind of expected. I got a little stuck on Cantaloupe because there's like a U in there,
Right, exactly.
If only Amazon Echo was around to help me spell that word.
No, we're not. Are we getting a paid spot for Amazon? Is that,
well, speaking of that, Amazon, I want a free thing, so if you could just send me an Echo, that'd be cool.
Good luck with that.
Also, Subaru makes the Outback. It's a very versatile, it's a very, it's just a great all-around vehicle, Subaru Outback.
Yeah, but we actually get paid by, off the charts video games. So please check them out. But seriously, let us know what you think about game difficulty. Let us know games that are tough that you like, or ones that were tough and you thought sucked because of it, or ones you just couldn't get past because it was just too annoying. But let us know. We'd be curious to hear it. All right, well, thank you for joining us again on another episode of the Collectorcast. Bill, thanks for having a conversation with me.
No problem. Thanks for tolerating with my massive talkiness.
If not, this would be a lot shorter show, Bill.
I know. I should learn when to know when to fold them.
No. I think our listeners appreciate our show. I don't get too many complaints anymore now that we don't do 5 or 6 hour shows.
Yeah, we're down to like the 4.5, 4 3/4.
3, I think usually 3, 2 or 3. We're getting there. But As I promised, I left it off the front, but a couple places you can find the show. So, Bill, if people want to, if they've listened all the way through this, maybe on a friend's car or something, and they want to also listen to us.
Yeah, so Joe, who's listening in Russ's car, you can go to collectorcast.com, we mentioned earlier, and that will take you to the place where you can get us.
On the internet.
Mm-hmm.
You can find us on Stitcher.
Yep, Stitcher Smart Radio.
iTunes.
That's what I use. I've got the iTunes all up in my business.
There you go. Windows Phone Store, whatever.
Finally, you're welcome.
Thing.
Pickle.
Podcast Pickle.
Don't forget the pickle.
YouTube.
There was a user on RFGen who someone in the show thread for the last episode suggested a couple other ways that Android users could get the show.
Oh. And
I'm not able to bring it up right now.
I think somebody told us that we're on some other marketplace or something that I didn't even know about.
Yeah, right?
Probably somebody just submits our feed. I'm sure that's all it takes.
Right. Yeah, I think what we had said before is that if you need the RSS feed, it's right on collectorcast.com, but there's other what do you call it? App venues to grab the show. I don't think we mentioned Facebook and Twitter yet, even though that's where we got our questions from earlier. So if you want to throw some more questions up once we're ready to record some, I love questions. That'd be great.
Yeah, anytime. Just Collectorcast both on Facebook and Twitter. And I always want to throw this in case some newer listeners have come on board. Sometimes I get questions about, hey, where's the older episodes? All the old episodes are on YouTube, so you can go back. You can listen to all the way back to the very beginning. We only keep probably the last 13, 14 episodes in the RSS feed. So if you want to go all the way back and listen to us when we were years ago, you can certainly do that on YouTube. Lastly, I'd just like to say, number one, thanks everybody for listening. Really appreciate all the positive feedback that we receive for doing this. And also, if you could do us one favor, I'd say, hey, tell a friend, right? Let a friend know about the show if you like us. If you don't like us, I don't know. Why did you listen that long?
Right.
I don't know.
Well, yeah. Why did it take you till the fourth hour to say, you know what? I'm just going to put on light rock.
That's right. But, if you like the show, do us a favor. Let somebody know. If you got other friends that are gamers, tell them to give us a shot. We certainly appreciate that. And until next time, we'll talk to you soon. Woo.
Got it.
Right. Yep.
Like Michael DeLuise.
Is Dom DeLuise is the...
Yeah, well, Dom is for the older crowd. Michael, I don't know if son, nephew, what it is, but Michael DeLuise was the actor in Wayne's World who did the pointing when you don't say 2 or 1.
That's the guy, huh?
That's Michael DeLuise, yeah.
I did not know that.
Oh, yeah, and he was also in Encino Man.
God, no, that's going back, right?
He was the bully. He was shush.
Oh, God. Let's please not think of any more Pauly Shore films. All right.
In the Army Now is pretty good.
No, not really. Biodome? We're going to go there?
Biodome with, what's his name? Stephen Baldwin.
Yeah, the Baldwins. Oh, God.